Hola, beautiful spirits, being humans. It's Maria here. Um, just jumping on for a few minutes, or we'll see how long this goes. Just to kind of chat about some things that have been coming up in my reality, and also just with the different clients I've been working with the last few months. Um, but I've taken on more clients just in the last month or so for coaching as well as doing healings and readings. And I'm seeing a lot of common themes, we'll say, which isn't surprising because as the human collective continues to shift and evolve, we're all feeling a lot of the same emotions. Our triggers may be different, our traumas may be different, our shadows may be different, but as far as the human emotions go, we're all kind of carrying around the same stuff. Um, we often express things differently, but really at the meat, when I get to the meat or the root of an issue with either myself or a client, it's always like the same themes because really it comes down to the programs that we as humans have been heavily under. And when I talk about programs, I mean societal programming, the matrix. I'm talking about being programmed by, meaning, the systems, being programmed by family, parents, loved ones, friends, jobs, right? Like the programming that all of us have been under our whole lives it runs deep. It runs really deep. And this is why both Sam and I are huge proponents in shadow work. Shadow work is something that I believe is crucial in this enlightenment process, meaning we really can't, shift into the light and love authentically without facing the darkness, the shadows. And that goes on, that rings true for your internal process as well as the external, because it's everything out there is mirroring what's going on internally with the human collective. So when we can start to sort of connect the dots, that the darkness that we either don't want to see out there is very much related to the darkness that many of us also don't want to see inside of us. And I know with like my coaching, I know Sam also does a lot of shadow work in her coaching. I think we go about it a little bit differently. But for the most part, it's all really about getting to the root cause of our behaviors as humans. It's getting to the root cause of our unconscious suffering, and learning how to really sort of develop healthier behaviors and start to adopt new perspectives and mindsets, because so much of it is driven by our mind, right? And that's why we are programmed. That's why we have been mind controlled and brainwashed by the systems, because we're easier to manipulate that way, right? If they keep us living in fear, and that's really what we're controlled with, then we're very, very easy to control, to manipulate, and kind of just to use as pawns in their game, right? So to me, shadow work is it's literally, I feel like, the only way to really start stepping into what I perceive to be our authentic selves, right? And the whole thing with like shadow work, at least from my perspective, my experience, it's really starting to get to know your ego on many levels, right? And there's a lot of spiritual teachings out there that will tell us that the ego is bad, we have to get rid of the ego, all this BS, right? And the reality of it is the ego is part of the human avatar. It's part of the skin suit, and it's not a bad thing. It is the part of our conditioned mind that has kept us safe, or it believes it keeps us safe. It protects us, right? So its intention is not bad. It's not a negative, not a negative thing. If we perceive it as negative, well, then it's going to be negative, right? Anything that we perceive or label as good or bad, then that becomes our reality. So the ego is not bad. It's just a part of, again, the skin suit, the avatar. And when we can start to recognize its role, why it has done what it's done in the sense of like suppressing memories, suppressing emotions, it's really done it again to protect us. It forgets that the human journey is temporary. It lives in survival mode. So it's always trying to prepare and control us for what's coming next, right? And anytime as a human we undergo any kind of trauma, it's important that people understand that trauma ranges all over the map, right? Trauma can be something very minute and it can be something horrific. Um, but all trauma really is, it's important that we understand not to compare traumas with other people, because really all trauma is it's pulling us out of an aligned state. It's causing us to feel unsafe somewhere, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally. That's trauma. It's causing those emotions to come up. So then the ego comes in to protect us, right? So we really can't compare traumas with each other, because we all process things differently. And what I perceive to be a trauma in my life, the exact same thing may happen to somebody else, and their experience with it is not traumatic, right? So that's why there's no comparing of traumas. It's understanding that we all carry trauma, tons of trauma, from this life, from other lives, from our family, from the collective. And so we're all walking around with a lot of trauma, and most of us are very, very, very unconscious of the traumas we carry. And this is why shadow work, in my eyes, is so important. Because if we are walking around with all of this unconscious suffering, we're projecting it out. And we're not living like a fulfilling, abundant, empowering life. We're feeling very disempowered. This is how we create disease in our body, in our mind, in our emotions. So again, shadow work is just something that I feel so passionate about. It's not fun. It's not easy to do. But it's also some of the most freeing work that you can do for yourself. And it's something that I do daily. It's like once I started doing it, I can't not do it. I don't do it maybe as intensely as I did in the beginning of my journey, just because I'm like recognizing patterns a lot faster, easier, right? I'm seeing those programs pop up. And again, the programs, there's layers to them. And I jump on today because I know the very first video that I did solo was all about confidence. And I think now that was like a couple months ago. But here I am still dealing with that paradigm in my reality, this sort of lack of self-confidence. And though I can acknowledge that I have come leaps and bounds from where I used to be, I'm also aware that I still have layers of programming and trauma to get through to get to another level of self-confidence for myself. And I started to recognize it's something that I know because I teach it, self-talk. And so it's like I have the knowledge. I do know that I've always been very hard on myself. And for a long time, I thought that that made me like a good person, being hard on myself, holding myself accountable, holding myself responsible, right? I thought that that made me a good person, but it really just caused a lot of internal suffering. And I was really like beating myself down for many years and didn't realize it. Thankfully, as I started to awaken, I realized that those thoughts that I had about myself, the negative talk that I would speak either in my head or even out loud to myself, were playing a very, very negative role on my subconscious. Because it's important that we understand that the subconscious part of our brain, it literally sucks in everything. It takes it all in. It takes in all of our experiences. It takes in everything that we watch, everything that we listen to, everything that we surround ourselves with. But it can't discern good, bad, right, wrong. It just takes it. It's just taking in the information. And then eventually our emotions will mirror whatever the thoughts that we are perpetuating, right? So if we're constantly negatively talking to ourselves about ourselves, the emotions start to also mirror that. So we start to feel a lack of self-worth, a lack of self-confidence, um, which is all very related to like our solar plexus. That's where a lot of this stuff is processed. That's where we step into confidence, is in the solar plexus. Um, so again, like I do know all of this stuff. I feel like I practice it in my daily life. But again, as a very conditioned and programmed human, each time I kind of pull back another layer of my onion, um, I'm revealing another level of where this is still showing up in my life. Where am I still lacking confidence? Why am I still lacking confidence? Um, and I think the theme kind of started coming up for me again. Well, it's always kind of there, we'll put it that way, but really coming in my forefront as, again, I'm working with clients that are sort of mirroring my own stuff. And I also started watching Cesar Millan. For anybody that doesn't know him, he's like the dog whisperer. Um, so I started watching a series of his. I actually bought them on Amazon Prime, because I do volunteer at a dog shelter and we're fostering a dog right now. I've always loved dogs. And Sam and I do animal communication, right? But we do it in a way where we're like communicating with the soul of the animal, not necessarily always understanding the brain of a dog. And that's kind of what I'm learning now through Caesar. Because first of all, he speaks my language of energy. He gets that everything is energy. He understands that all of our animals, not just dogs, but all of our animals are sponges, and they're picking up on our energies. And that is a very, very important lesson that I learned from my previous dog, Snoop. Um, he lived to 13. He ended up getting very aggressive cancer at the end. And it wasn't until after he passed that really I started to really wake up. But it was in his passing and just starting to kind of observe his health patterns over the years, recognizing my own health patterns and just the energies in the house and everything. It made perfect sense to me, um, why he got cancer. So that's one of the lessons, one of the very, very, very important lessons I learned from him. It was part of our contract for me to learn that. So I don't have any guilt. I did for a while, but he and I, his spirit and I have worked together, and I've realized that that really was part of our contract. He was part of my awakening, and I'm so grateful to him for that. So yeah, so Sam and I do the animal communication, but it's like we're communicating with the higher self, just like how we communicate with spirit. And what I'm learning from Caesar is that the dog avatar brain is not a human. They're not, like, we like to humanize them. I have absolutely humanized my dog Bandit. I will say he's, and I'm sure many people can make this argument, but I mean, like, legitimately with him, he's not your average dog. And I don't take credit for that because he came to us like that. But I also know there's a very, very deep soul connection with him and me and my husband. So I get why he's not the average dog, right? But as I'm watching all of these episodes with Caesar and wanting to take this knowledge now and apply it with the dogs at the shelter, and I'm also using it on our foster dog, Sonic, because he comes to us with a lot of insecurities. Insecurities, lack of self-confidence. Wonder who he's mirroring. Wonder why he popped into our life, I don't wonder, I know why. So it's like I knew that when we had him, but now in watching Caesar and how he works with all of these different dogs, different breeds, it's always the human that he has to retrain. It's not even the animal. And I mean, I've watched episodes where there's highly aggressive dogs. But it's all because they're picking up on some kind of energy in the house from their pet parents. And it's that unspoken energy, oftentimes. It's the stuff that we're feeling and not expressing. It's the stuff that I carried around in me for 20, 30 something years and created disease in my body, right? It's the stuff that I didn't talk about with people but was feeling all the time. So, of course, my poor dog was feeling that too. And so, what I'm learning is how to be a pack leader. And in order to be a pack leader, you have to exude confidence, right? And it's just interesting because I'm like, wow, no wonder why I was called to start watching his stuff. And I mean, I'm not even just watching it, like I'm engrossed in it. This is now what I've watched every night for probably the last week and a half, because it's everything that I love. It's energy, it's dogs, it's humans learning to be better for themselves, but also for their dogs, right? Like it's, yeah, I love it. Like legit. And I feel like I'm learning so much, not just that I can take with me to the dog shelter, but apply in my everyday life. And it's, again, it's about confidence. And when I watch him, Caesar, it's funny because he is somebody to me that exudes confidence, but not like arrogance, right? He's to me like, I mean, and again, I'm just reading his energy as I'm watching him interact with the animals, with the people, with everyone, with the audience. And it's like, wow, that's confidence, but also humility, right? And I believe that that's what I was talking about in my very first video that I made about trying to balance confidence and humility. And what I'm learning now is like, I don't have to balance them because they're not really opposite. Confidence just means that you believe in yourself, that you trust yourself. It doesn't mean that you are trying to be better than anyone else. It doesn't mean that you are trying to control a situation. It doesn't mean that you are comparing yourself to anyone. It literally just means that you believe in yourself, like to the deepest core, and that you trust yourself. Because that's one of the biggest things that I'm seeing as the common theme in all of his episodes is it's a trust thing, right? The dogs are usually acting out because there's a lack of trust in the human pack, and then there's a lack of trust with the dog. So it's, again, everything's energy. So there's this mistrust just floating around everywhere. And so to me, confidence is trust. It's trusting in yourself. Because when you can trust in yourself, you can do anything. You believe in yourself to this level of like that I realized I've never felt that way about myself, as I'm starting to feel more of it every day and embody that feeling every day. And like I'm practicing it with Sonic, who is a small Chihuahua, who sometimes those smaller breeds can even be harder to train. And he's also very insecure. So it's just very interesting to sort of see a little mirror of myself. I mean, there's things about him that are not an exact mirror of me, but there's many things that are. And even just like I'm learning how to like walk him properly on a leash, because lucky for us, we don't really put Bandit on a leash. He doesn't have to be. Again, it's how he came to us. We did no training with him. So I know he's not the average, especially now working with all of these dogs at the shelters that are coming, for the most part, from some kind of a trauma. And it's interesting because I believed that all these dogs that are like traumatized that are coming to us are stuck in the trauma. And after watching Caesar, it's like, for the most part, he doesn't believe that dogs live in the past. Humans do. And I get what he's saying. And it kind of was like an aha for me. So it's not necessarily that these dogs that have either been abused, surrendered, dumped, it's not even like that they're stuck in the trauma. We are. The humans are. The humans at the shelter, the volunteers, the people that work there, anybody that comes into that, and we are stuck in the trauma that they went in, that they've endured, because it breaks our heart to see such pain and suffering to beings that we perceive to be so innocent, right? And again, I think I've said it in other videos, I do know from a higher perspective, dogs, just like humans, they're the exact same kind of soul as you and I. So innocent maybe in this avatar, but they've also lived many lives as humans and walked many different experiences that as a human we would say maybe isn't so innocent. But of course, in the avatar of an animal, it makes us believe that they're fully innocent, right? And I just feel like it's important I touch on that too, because these are all like the perspectives I have when I'm working with these animals. So what I'm really understanding is like, whoa, it's the shelters, it's the rescues that are the humans are stuck in the trauma of these animals, because we humans are stuck in our own traumas. And if we can't even see that, then we are always going to get sucked into their traumas, right? Because we can't even see that we're still very much drowning in our own. And again, that comes back to shadow work. When you do shadow work every day, you start to see the traumas that have been unconsciously controlling you. So I just found it all very like another like aha epiphany watching him, because it's like, whoa, I knew going into the shelter that like I knew I had to bring in sort of like cleansing energy, right? I had to go in, and I'm very aware of self, right? So I don't go there on the days that I'm going through intensive shadow work where I have a lot of emotions, where I'm very chaotic in my mind. I'm not going to go there because I know I'm going to affect them. So it's like I knew that, but now like watching him and seeing all of these different scenarios, it's like, wow, these dogs don't hold on to that trauma. We do. So in turn, they do. And it's wild. And so he talked about too how like oftentimes dogs that are just aggressive because they're territorial tend to be easier to rehab than a dog that is insecure. And of course, what do we have? Fostering. We're fostering a dog that's insecure. Because why not? Because I'm insecure. That's how this rolls. So I fully understand why he's in our house right now. And he's really motivating me to continue to work on my insecurities. And not just motivating me, but he's like a gauge for me, because I can kind of like read his behavior. And so then I know what's kind of going on inside of me if he's acting that way. What is he picking up on inside of me that maybe I'm not even aware of, right? That's what's wild. These dogs are like radars because they don't understand the way that humans do. They read energy. That's literally what they do. That's all animals. They read energy. They don't have the predisposed perceptions like we as humans do, because they don't hold their brains don't hold on to that like ours do. So I don't know why I'm talking about all this. I mean, I do, but I guess it's also to help anybody out there that has any animal start to just become aware that they are sponges and they are mirrors of us. They are mirroring the energy that we're holding inside of us. And so for me, the confidence thing, I'm learning how to be a pack leader. I'm learning how to walk with like my shoulders up, and like I can't even believe that that's like something I have to practice, but I realize like my body language is always sort of like slouched, right? Like I'm kind of like inward. I'm kind of like introverted. Like don't look at me kind of type of thing. Like I have to actually consciously sit myself up and hold my spine up. And that's when I realized like, wow, I'm still exuding this like lack of confidence. It's wild, even though I've worked through so many layers so far. So thank you, Caesar. Thank you, all you beautiful little doggies out there that are helping me to continue to break through more layers of this and realizations. Because again, confidence and humility, they're not opposite. Like, because every time I uncover another layer of lack of confidence, I'm humbled. Isn't that wild? So it's like the two go hand in hand. I've perceived confidence, I think, sometimes as being better, right? Being better than, even though I know that's not what it is, but that's how I've like perceived it in other people, I guess. So I've had a hard time like even understanding what confidence feels like inside of me because I have my own perception of it in other people. Um, but it's like, okay, no, confidence literally just means believing in myself and trusting myself. That's all. And loving myself. So this goes back to the self-talk, right? I have spoken so negatively to myself for many years. And oftentimes I've done it in a joking way, like sarcasm, a sarcastic way, because it's like my ego's way, my brain's way of like poking fun, but I'm not really making fun. I'm just joking. I'm just joking, right? That whole just joking thing. And this has come up with a lot of clients lately, and that's why I think I'm sharing it too, because it's like I've realized it for myself that I've actually one of the things that I don't feel confident about is being smart. Okay, so then I break that down and I'm like, what is smart? What is dumb? They're labels of the matrix, they're perceptions, um, and they're disempowering, right? I believe them both to actually be disempowering because what is smart? Smart could be somebody that is highly educated in the system. Someone else could be looking at someone that has all these degrees and, oh, they're so smart. Why? Because they went and got trained by the system. I'm one of those people. I went through schooling to be a nurse. So, like, does that make me smart? Well, to somebody that didn't go through that, I may be perceived as smart. Now, take the opposite side of that. Take the fact that people are waking up to the fact that the education system is just another brainwashing mechanism for us. So now I'm perceived maybe by people that are awake to that as brainwashed. She's not smart. She's just brainwashed by everything the system taught her. It doesn't make her smart, right? What is dumb? Dumb. So that's the word I think that I used to kind of playfully kid myself about because I've had a lot of through the years I was intellectually smart in school because I had a good memory. I could retain stuff like that. It really that's all it came down to. I could retain information that was regurgitated to me from a book, from a lecture, right? Smart. Um, but when it came to sometimes everyday, maybe what some people would say is common sense, I could be like totally clueless sometimes. Like even I would amaze myself. Like, how can I like know something so intricate as like the body, but yet something very simple right over my head? Like almost like I can't process it, right? So I know there's a lot of us out there like that, and the opposite way too. So again, this is why I say that dumb, stupid, they're just labels, and they're just perspectives of whoever is labeling you that, also yourself. So I started to realize, probably in the last month, because I can hear myself do it when I do it. When I do something that's like dumb, I'll go, dumbass. You're so stupid. But I say it jokingly, but again, this goes back to the subconscious mind. Subconscious doesn't discern, oh, she's just joking. Subconscious just sucks the words in. And my emotions start to mirror those words because those words have been spoken so many times in my head over and over and over by myself and also by other people because I've grown up in families that tease, like, oh, it's loving to tease, and like I grew up with that. I was teased a lot as a kid by family members, and it has continued throughout my adult life. And then I started to realize that has also played a role in my own self-talk, because my loved ones tease me jokingly, not meaning any harm, no ill intent. But it fucks with my subconscious, and then I adopt these beliefs too. And so I had a couple moments in the last week or so where I was like overwhelmingly feeling like I'm so stupid. People think I'm so stupid. Um, I'm dependent. Um, I won't figure this out without other people's help. Like all of this program was coming up for me. Um, I also know it's got to do with, we've had solar flares going on this week in the universe, and everybody else in the collective that's going through their own self-worth, self-confidence thing. So I know it's not just me, which is why I'm sharing this, because it's not just me. And I'm very aware of that. I know it's the programs that we all have, and then our own traumas and our own limiting beliefs. So I share this all with you because I'm realizing that dumb, stupid labels of the matrix, very, very disempowering ones that will continue to fuck with our self-confidence. And I'm kind of done playing that game with myself, because by beating myself down, whether I'm joking or I'm serious, it still has the same energetic effect on my body and on my mind. And so as I become more self-aware of the times I'm even doing it in a joking manner, and even when I do it to other people, because I know sometimes I'm jokingly picking on people's whatever, and not with ill intent. It's almost to lighten the mood, I think, sometimes about it. But it doesn't. It's actually just poking fun at people's insecurities, and it's sort of adding to that paradigm of feeling this lack of worth. So none of you are dumb. None of you are stupid. Many of us are just unaware. And you hear the words asleep a lot. I don't even like to use that word anymore personally, because I'm finding it also to be another disempowering label. I tend to sort of lean towards awareness, because that's all of this is. Either we have an awareness about something or we don't have an awareness. And when we don't have the awareness, we perceive people as stupid or asleep. Because I still do that in my head sometimes as I look externally at other people, when they can so blatantly see some things but not other things. And it's usually about themselves that they can't see. It's very blatant in the external, but when it comes to the internal, they can't see it. So if I were a judgy human, I could say they're stupid, right? But they're not. They're programmed. They're brainwashed, all of us, like all of us, right? And as we break open these programs, the awareness starts to expand. So we look smarter. We think we're smarter. We think we're awake. And then we think other people are asleep. And it's really just varying degrees of awareness. And that awareness applies to the external matrix, and it also applies to the internal matrix, because it's all a mirror. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I'll ramble on about for now, because these were sort of the thoughts that were coming up for me when I woke up this morning. And again, just after this last week, working with different clients and working through my own shit, it's like, wow, yep, we got a lot of the same themes going on. So I know anybody that watches this, I'm sure some aspect of it will resonate with you. And if it doesn't, well then I've planted seeds and move on. But yeah, we all have lack of confidence. And if you think you don't, then you're unaware of it. You're just unaware of it. When we think these things don't apply to us, it's really because the ego is sort of coming in and blocking it out again. It's like, oh no, I don't need to do shadow work. Oh no, that I don't feel that way. I don't exude that. that doesn't apply to me. That's the ego coming in, right? But when you can watch videos like this with an open mind, but even more importantly, an open heart, you can start to receive the message and realize, oh, this does apply to me. I can see where this applies in my life, right? And that's where you start taking that courageous step into shadow work. Because the deeper we go into the darkness, my friends, the brighter our light will glow. And I'm so proud of all of you doing this work. And even those of you that haven't really stepped into doing the work yet, but are just starting to like peel those blinders back, right? I'm proud of you, because none of this is easy. The human journey is not easy, but every single one of us signed up for it. Every single one of us has many purposes on this earth plane. So don't forget that, and just be gentle with yourselves, love yourself, and start practicing healthy self-talk. Start telling yourself how much you love yourself, how beautiful you are, how great you are, how compassionate, how empathic you are. All start rewiring that subconscious mind. Start pulling out the muck from all of these bullshit programs that we have trapped ourselves in and allowed society to trap us in. It's time to break free, my friends. I love you so much. Have a beautiful day.